You've been told that quantum shifting is this incredibly complex, mysterious process that requires years of study, expensive courses, and endless analysis of your subconscious patterns. But what if I told you that quantum shifting is actually stunningly simple, and that the entire spiritual industry has a vested interest in keeping you trapped in analysis paralysis, because the moment you realize how effortless this really is, you stop buying their programs? I'm talking about a level of simplicity that would shock you. The kind of simplicity that makes you wonder why you've been spinning your wheels for months or even years, collecting techniques like trading cards, when the fundamental mechanism of reality shifting operates on principles so basic that a child could understand them. And maybe that's exactly the problem. Maybe we've been conditioned to believe that transformation has to be hard, that it has to involve struggle, that it has to require endless inner work and healing before we're worthy of the reality we desire. But here's what the gurus don't want you to know. The quantum field doesn't care about your limiting beliefs. It doesn't care about your childhood trauma. It doesn't care about whether you've done enough shadow work or cleared enough blocks or raised your vibration to some arbitrary level. The quantum field responds to one thing and one thing only: the frequency you're broadcasting right now, in this moment, through your state of being. And that state of being can shift in an instant. Think about it this way. When you're dreaming at night, do you analyze your way into a different dream scenario? Do you sit there in the dream trying to figure out your limiting beliefs about why you can't fly, or why you can't be in a different location? Of course not. You simply find yourself in a different reality, effortlessly, because your consciousness shifted its focus. That's quantum shifting. It's not a technique. It's not a process. It's a natural function of consciousness that you've been doing your entire life without even realizing it. So why does the spiritual industry want to keep this from you? Because simplicity doesn't sell. If I told you that quantum shifting is as natural as changing the channel on a television, you wouldn't need to buy another course. You wouldn't need to spend months in therapy uncovering every childhood wound. You wouldn't need to do endless energy clearings or learn complicated manifestation formulas. You'd simply start shifting right now, and the entire industry built on complexity and healing would lose a customer. But here's where it gets really interesting from a scientific perspective. Quantum mechanics has shown us that reality exists in a state of infinite potential until the moment of observation collapses the wave function into a specific experience. Now, most people hear this and immediately start trying to figure out how to observe better, how to visualize more clearly, how to focus their intention more precisely. But that's exactly backwards. The observer effect isn't about doing something. It's about being something. When quantum physicists talk about the observer, they're not talking about your conscious mind trying to manipulate reality. They're talking about the fundamental quality of consciousness itself, which is pure awareness. And pure awareness doesn't try to create reality. It simply recognizes what's already here. It's like tuning into a radio station that's already broadcasting. The music isn't created by your radio. The music already exists in the electromagnetic field. Your radio just selects which frequency to receive. This is why all those manifestation techniques that focus on trying to create or attract something are actually counterproductive. You're not creating anything. You're not attracting anything from outside yourself. You're simply tuning into a different frequency of the infinite field of possibilities that already contains every possible version of your life. The version of you that has the relationship you want already exists. The version of you that has the financial abundance you want already exists. The version of you that has the health and vitality you want already exists. They're all here, right now, broadcasting on different frequencies. Let me give you a perfect example of how this works in everyday life. Have you ever noticed how when you're in a really good mood, everything seems to go your way? Traffic lights turn green just as you approach them. Parking spaces open up right where you need them. People are friendlier. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere. You didn't sit there trying to manifest green traffic lights. You didn't visualize parking spaces. You didn't affirm that people would be nice to you. You were simply in a high-frequency state of being, and reality reflected that frequency back to you. Or think about falling in love. When you're in that state of being in love, the whole world looks different. Colors seem brighter. Music sounds better. Even challenges feel manageable because you're operating from a completely different frequency. You didn't analyze your way into that state. You didn't heal all your relationship wounds first. You simply found yourself in a different reality because your state of being shifted. This is quantum shifting in its most natural form. It's not about doing anything. It's about being something different. And the beautiful thing is that you can shift your state of being in an instant. Not through techniques or processes, but through what I call quantum recognition. You simply recognize that the reality you want already exists, and you allow yourself to tune into that frequency. Now, here's where most people get tripped up. They hear this and immediately start trying to figure out how to tune in. They want a method. They want steps. They want something to do. But the moment you turn this into a technique, you've missed the point entirely. You've moved from being into doing, and doing is the frequency of the current reality you want to shift from. The reality you want to shift into is accessed through being, not doing. Think about it like this. When you're watching a movie and you get completely absorbed in the story, you're not trying to get absorbed. You're not using a technique to feel immersed. You simply allow yourself to be present with what's happening on the screen, and your consciousness naturally shifts into that reality. You laugh, you cry, you feel suspense, you feel joy, all because you've allowed your awareness to tune into that frequency. Quantum shifting works exactly the same way. You don't try to shift. You don't effort your way into a new reality. You simply allow your awareness to tune into the frequency of the reality that already exists. And the way you do that is through what quantum physicists call coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are all aligned with the same frequency, you create a coherent signal that the quantum field can respond to clearly. But here's the key that nobody talks about. Coherence isn't something you create, it's something you allow. It's your natural state. Think about when you were a child and you got excited about something. Maybe it was your birthday coming up, or a trip to the amusement park, or just playing with your favorite toy. You didn't have to work at being excited. You didn't have to align your thoughts and emotions. You were naturally coherent because you were simply being present with what felt good to you. That's the frequency of quantum shifting. It's not about positive thinking or forcing yourself to feel good. It's about finding what naturally feels good to you and allowing yourself to be present with that feeling. When you do this, something magical happens. Your entire electromagnetic field shifts. Your heart rhythm becomes coherent. Your brain waves synchronize. You literally become a different frequency, and the quantum field responds by reflecting that frequency back to you as your external reality. The Institute of Heart Math has done extensive research on this phenomenon. They've shown that when you're in a state of heart coherence, when your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered, it creates a powerful electromagnetic field that can be measured several feet away from your body. This field carries information. It broadcasts your state of being to the quantum field like a radio transmitter, and the quantum field, being pure potential, responds by collapsing possibilities that match your broadcast into your experienced reality. But here's what's absolutely fascinating. They've also discovered that you can shift into heart coherence in a matter of seconds, not through complicated techniques, but through simple appreciation. When you genuinely appreciate something, anything, your heart immediately shifts into a coherent rhythm. It could be appreciating the taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of sunlight on your skin, the sound of your favorite song, or even just the fact that you're breathing and alive in this moment. This is why gratitude practices work, but not for the reason most people think. It's not because the universe rewards you for being grateful. It's because genuine appreciation naturally shifts you into heart coherence, which broadcasts a high-frequency signal to the quantum field. You're not trying to get something by being grateful. You're simply allowing yourself to tune into a frequency where what you want already exists. Now let me share something that might completely change how you think about this. The reason quantum shifting feels difficult for most people isn't because it actually is difficult. It's because they're trying to shift from their current reality instead of shifting from the reality they want to experience. Let me explain what I mean by this. When you're trying to manifest money, for example, you're usually thinking about money from the perspective of not having enough money. You're trying to get somewhere from where you are. But the version of you that has abundant money isn't trying to get money. That version of you is simply being abundant. They're not thinking about money as something they need to attract. They're thinking about money as something that flows naturally through their life. This is the difference between trying to shift and actually shifting. When you try to shift, you're acknowledging that you're not where you want to be, and that acknowledgement keeps you locked into the frequency of where you are. But when you actually shift, you stop trying to get somewhere and start being somewhere. You stop trying to become the person who has what you want and start being the person who has what you want. And here's the beautiful thing about this. Being that person isn't about pretending or faking it till you make it. It's about recognizing that that person already exists within you. Every possible version of yourself already exists as potential in the quantum field. The confident version of you, the abundant version of you, the healthy version of you, the loved version of you. They're not future possibilities. They're present realities existing on different frequencies. So quantum shifting isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you already are. It's about recognizing that the limitations you experience aren't actually real. They're just the current frequency you're tuned into. And just like you can change the channel on your television without having to understand how electromagnetic waves work, you can change the frequency of your reality without having to understand every detail of quantum mechanics. The process is actually embarrassingly simple. You find something that naturally feels good to you, not something you think should feel good, but something that genuinely does feel good. It could be a memory, a possibility, a sensation, a sound, anything that creates a genuine feeling of appreciation or joy or excitement or peace. Then you simply allow yourself to be present with that feeling. You don't try to amplify it or maintain it or turn it into something else. You just let yourself enjoy it. As you do this, your entire energy field shifts. Your thoughts naturally align with that frequency. Your emotions naturally harmonize with that state. Your actions naturally flow from that place. You become coherent without trying to become coherent. And in that coherence, you're broadcasting a clear signal to the quantum field about who you're being in this moment. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And what you are is determined not by your circumstances, but by your frequency. When you're being abundant, the quantum field reflects abundance. When you're being loved, the quantum field reflects love. When you're being healthy, the quantum field reflects health. It's not a reward system. It's a mirror system. This is why affirmations often don't work. When you're saying, "I am abundant," while feeling poor, you're broadcasting a mixed signal. Your words are saying one thing, but your frequency is saying something else. The quantum field responds to your frequency, not your words. But when you find a way to genuinely feel abundant, even for a moment, even about something small, you're broadcasting a clear signal of abundance and the field responds accordingly. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. Let's say you want to shift into a reality where you have a loving, romantic relationship. Instead of focusing on the fact that you're currently single, instead of trying to figure out how to attract the right person, you simply tune into the frequency of being loved. Maybe you remember a time when you felt completely accepted by a friend. Maybe you think about how much your pet adores you. Maybe you appreciate the way the barista smiled at you this morning. The specific source doesn't matter. What matters is that you're genuinely feeling the frequency of being loved. As you allow yourself to be present with that feeling, you're not trying to use it to get a relationship. You're simply enjoying the feeling of being loved, right now, in this moment. And as you do this, something shifts in your energy field. You start broadcasting the frequency of someone who is loved, and the quantum field begins reflecting that frequency back to you in countless ways. Maybe you notice that people seem more drawn to you. Maybe conversations flow more easily. Maybe you feel more confident and attractive. Maybe opportunities for connection start appearing naturally. You're not forcing anything to happen. You're simply being a different frequency, and reality is reshaping itself to match that frequency. This is what I mean when I say quantum shifting is simple. It's not about learning complicated techniques or healing every wound or clearing every block. It's about recognizing that you can tune into any frequency you choose right now, in this moment, simply by finding something that naturally feels good and allowing yourself to be present with it. But here's where the gurus have really done a number on people. They've convinced you that you have to be worthy of what you want before you can have it. They've told you that you need to heal your stuff, clear your blocks, raise your vibration, and prove yourself somehow before the universe will give you what you desire. But that's like saying you have to be worthy of tuning into a radio station before you can hear the music. The music is already there. The frequency is already broadcasting. You don't have to earn the right to tune in. You just have to choose to tune in. And the beautiful thing is that the moment you tune into a higher frequency, everything that was blocking that frequency naturally dissolves. You don't have to clear the blocks first. The blocks disappear when you shift to a frequency where they don't exist. Think about it like this. If you're listening to static on a radio, you don't try to clear the static. You simply tune to a clearer station. The static wasn't real interference. It was just the result of being tuned to a frequency that wasn't broadcasting clearly. When you tune to a clear station, the static disappears instantly, not because you cleared it, but because you're no longer tuned to it. Your limiting beliefs work exactly the same way. They're not real obstacles that you have to overcome. They're just the result of being tuned to a frequency where those beliefs exist. When you tune to a frequency where those beliefs don't exist, they disappear instantly. You don't have to fight them or heal them or clear them. You just have to stop being tuned to them. This is why all that inner work can actually keep you stuck. When you're focused on your blocks, you're tuned to the frequency where those blocks exist. When you're focused on your wounds, you're tuned to the frequency where those wounds are active. When you're focused on what's wrong with you, you're tuned to the frequency where things are wrong. You're not clearing anything. You're just reinforcing the frequency you want to shift away from. But the moment you tune into what feels good, what you appreciate, what excites you, what brings you joy, you're automatically tuned away from all of that. You don't have to process it or heal it or understand it. You just have to stop giving it your attention and start giving your attention to what you actually want to experience. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too simple. This sounds too good to be true. And I get it. You've been conditioned to believe that transformation has to be hard, that you have to suffer for your growth, that you have to earn your way to a better reality. But what if that's just another frequency you've been tuned into? What if ease and simplicity are actually the natural way that consciousness operates? Look at nature. Does a flower struggle to bloom? Does a tree effort its way into growing? Does a river try to flow downhill? Everything in nature operates through what we might call effortless effort. There's tremendous power and intelligence at work, but it's not forced or struggled. It's simply the natural expression of what wants to emerge. You are nature. Your consciousness is part of the same intelligence that grows flowers and moves rivers and spins galaxies. Why would your transformation be any different? Why would you have to struggle and effort and force your way into a better reality when everything else in the universe operates through natural flow and effortless emergence? The answer is that you don't. You've just been taught to believe that you do. You've been taught to believe that you're separate from the natural flow of the universe, that you have to fight against some kind of resistance, that you have to prove yourself worthy of what you want. But what if none of that is true? What if you're already worthy? What if there's no resistance except what you create through believing in resistance? What if the flow is always available and you just have to stop swimming upstream? This is the real secret of quantum shifting. It's not about doing something extraordinary. It's about stopping doing the ordinary things that keep you locked into frequencies you don't want to experience. It's about recognizing that struggle is optional, that suffering is optional, that limitation is optional. These aren't facts about reality. They're frequencies you can choose to tune into or tune away from. And when you really get this, when you really understand that you have complete freedom to choose your frequency in every moment, everything changes. You stop looking outside yourself for validation or permission or the right technique. You stop waiting for your circumstances to change before you allow yourself to feel good. You start recognizing that how you feel is entirely within your control, and how you feel is what determines your reality. But here's something absolutely crucial that most people miss. When I say you can choose your frequency, I'm not talking about forcing yourself to think positive thoughts or pretending everything is fine when it's not. That's just another form of doing, and doing keeps you trapped in the frequency of effort and struggle. I'm talking about something much more subtle and much more powerful. I'm talking about the recognition that in every moment, no matter what's happening in your external circumstances, there's something available to appreciate. There's something available to feel good about. It might be tiny, it might seem insignificant, but it's always there. And the moment you genuinely connect with that feeling, even for just a few seconds, you've shifted your frequency. Let me tell you about a client of mine who discovered this in the most unlikely circumstances. She was going through a brutal divorce, facing financial ruin, dealing with health issues, and feeling completely overwhelmed by everything falling apart in her life. She came to me desperate for some kind of manifestation technique that would fix everything quickly. She wanted the magic formula, the secret method, the thing she could do to turn her life around. But instead of giving her another technique to try, I asked her a simple question. I said, right now, in this moment, what's one tiny thing you can genuinely appreciate? She looked at me like I was crazy. She said, are you kidding me? My life is falling apart and you want me to find something to appreciate? But I persisted. I said, just humor me. One tiny thing. She sat there for a moment, clearly frustrated, and then she said, Well, I guess I appreciate that my coffee is still warm. It was such a small thing, almost ridiculous given everything she was dealing with. But as she said it, something shifted in her energy. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Her breathing deepened. For just a moment, she wasn't the woman whose life was falling apart. She was simply someone appreciating warm coffee. I asked her to stay with that feeling for just a few more seconds, not to try to expand it or use it to fix anything, just to let herself enjoy the simple pleasure of warm coffee. And in those few seconds, she accessed a frequency that had nothing to do with her circumstances. She accessed the frequency of appreciation, of simple contentment, of being present with something pleasant. That tiny shift, that moment of genuine appreciation for something as simple as warm coffee, was her first experience of quantum shifting. She wasn't trying to manifest anything. She wasn't trying to change her circumstances. She was simply allowing herself to tune into a different frequency. And in that frequency, she remembered something she had forgotten. She remembered that her well-being didn't actually depend on her circumstances. Over the next few weeks, she started practicing this more regularly, not as a technique to fix her problems, but simply because it felt good to find moments of genuine appreciation throughout her day. Maybe it was the way sunlight looked coming through her window. Maybe it was a text from a friend. Maybe it was just the feeling of taking a deep breath. Small things, but real things that she could genuinely appreciate. And something remarkable started happening. Not because she was trying to make it happen, but because she was consistently tuning into a higher frequency. Opportunities started appearing. Solutions started emerging. People started showing up to help in unexpected ways. Her health began improving. Even the divorce proceedings started going more smoothly. None of this was forced or enforced. It was simply the natural result of broadcasting a different frequency to the quantum field. This is what I mean when I say quantum shifting is simple. It's not about changing your entire life overnight. It's about changing your frequency consistently, moment by moment, through genuine appreciation of what's actually available to appreciate right now. And as you do this, the quantum field responds by reflecting that frequency back to you as improved circumstances. But here's what's so beautiful about this approach. You're not dependent on your circumstances changing to feel good. You feel good first, and then your circumstances change to match that frequency. You're not waiting for the perfect relationship to feel loved. You find ways to feel loved right now, and then relationships that match that frequency start appearing. You're not waiting for financial abundance to feel secure. You find ways to feel abundant right now, even if it's just appreciating the abundance of air you can breathe, and then financial opportunities start flowing. This completely flips the script on how most people approach manifestation. Most people are trying to use good feelings as a tool to get what they want. But when you're using feelings as a tool, you're not actually in those feelings. You're in the frequency of trying to get something, which is the frequency of not having it. The quantum field responds to what you're actually being, not what you're trying to use your being to get. Real quantum shifting happens when you stop trying to use good feelings to get things and start simply enjoying good feelings for their own sake. When you appreciate something just because it feels good to appreciate it, not because you're trying to attract more things to appreciate. When you feel grateful just because gratitude feels wonderful, not because you're trying to get the universe to give you more to be grateful for. This is what quantum physicists call pure observation. When you observe something without trying to change it or get something from it, you create what's called a coherent observation field. And coherent observation is what collapses quantum possibilities into experienced reality. But the moment you try to use your observation to manipulate outcomes, you've introduced incoherence into the field, and the quantum response becomes chaotic and unpredictable. Think about it like this. When you're genuinely enjoying a beautiful sunset, you're not trying to get anything from the sunset. You're not using your appreciation to attract more sunsets. You're simply present with the beauty, and in that presence, you're in perfect coherence with the frequency of beauty. You're not separate from the beauty trying to get it. You are the beauty experiencing itself. That's the frequency that creates quantum shifts. Not the frequency of wanting or needing or trying to get, but the frequency of being what you want to experience. And the extraordinary thing is that you can access this frequency regardless of your circumstances, because it's not dependent on anything external. It's dependent only on your willingness to be present with what feels good right now. Now here's where this gets really interesting from a neuroscience perspective. When you're in a state of genuine appreciation or joy or contentment, your brain produces what's called gamma waves. These are the fastest brain waves, oscillating at around 40 to 100 cycles per second. Gamma waves are associated with heightened awareness, peak performance, and what researchers call binding consciousness, the ability to integrate information from different parts of the brain into a unified experience. But here's what's fascinating. Gamma waves don't just happen in your brain. They create a coherent electromagnetic field that extends beyond your physical body. This field carries information about your state of consciousness, and it interacts with the quantum field in ways that we're just beginning to understand. Some researchers believe that gamma wave coherence is actually the mechanism through which consciousness collapses quantum possibilities into experienced reality. In other words, when you're in a state of genuine appreciation or joy, you're not just feeling good. You're literally broadcasting a coherent signal to the fabric of reality itself. You're creating what quantum physicists call a non-local effect, an influence that extends beyond the boundaries of space and time as we normally understand them. This is why quantum shifting can seem to produce results that appear instantaneous or even precede the shift itself. I had a client who experienced this in a way that completely blew his mind. He had been looking for a new job for months, sending out resumes, going to interviews, getting rejected over and over again. He was frustrated, desperate, and starting to believe that maybe he just wasn't good enough. Then he learned about quantum shifting and decided to try a different approach. Instead of focusing on getting a job, he started focusing on feeling valuable and appreciated. Every day he would spend a few minutes genuinely appreciating his skills, his experience, his unique qualities, not trying to convince himself he was valuable, but actually feeling into the truth of his value. And as he did this consistently, something shifted in his energy. He started carrying himself differently. He started speaking with more confidence. He started believing in his own worth. Then, something remarkable happened. He got a call from a company he had never applied to. Somehow his resume had ended up on the desk of a hiring manager who was looking for someone with exactly his qualifications. The manager had gotten his resume from a mutual contact who had thought of him randomly during a conversation. Within a week, he had the job, with a salary higher than what he had been hoping for. Now you could explain this as coincidence, as networking, as just good timing. But from a quantum perspective, something much more interesting was happening. By shifting into the frequency of feeling valued and appreciated, he had broadcast a coherent signal to the quantum field. That signal had influenced the field of possibilities around employment opportunities, increasing the probability of connections and opportunities that matched his new frequency. This is what quantum entanglement looks like in everyday life. When you shift your frequency, you don't just change your internal experience. You change your relationship to the entire field of possibilities. You become entangled with different potential outcomes. Opportunities that were previously invisible or unavailable suddenly become visible and available. People who were previously not thinking about you suddenly think about you. Circumstances that were previously unrelated suddenly become related. But here's the key. This doesn't happen because you're trying to make it happen. It happens because you've genuinely shifted into a different frequency of being. The trying energy actually interferes with the quantum process. It introduces what physicists call decoherence into the field. When you're trying to get something, you're acknowledging that you don't have it, and that acknowledgement keeps you entangled with the frequency of not having it. This is why so many manifestation techniques fail. They keep you focused on what you're trying to get, which keeps you vibrating at the frequency of not having it. You're working against yourself. You're trying to shift while simultaneously anchoring yourself in the frequency you want to shift away from. It's like trying to tune to a different radio station while holding the dial on the station you don't want to hear. Real quantum shifting happens when you let go of trying to get anything and simply allow yourself to be in the frequency you want to experience. When you stop trying to manifest abundance and simply allow yourself to feel abundant. When you stop trying to attract love and simply allow yourself to feel loved. When you stop trying to create health and simply allow yourself to feel vital and alive. And here's something that might surprise you. The easiest way to access these frequencies isn't through visualization or affirmation or any kind of mental technique. It's through your body. Your body is constantly generating electromagnetic fields through your heartbeat, your breathing, your nervous system activity. These fields carry information about your emotional and energetic state, and they're in constant communication with the quantum field. When you're in a state of stress or anxiety or frustration, your heart rhythm becomes chaotic and incoherent. This creates what researchers call an incoherent electromagnetic signature that broadcasts confusion and discord to the quantum field. The field responds by reflecting that incoherence back to you as chaotic and discordant experiences. But when you're in a state of appreciation or joy or contentment, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and coherent. This creates a coherent electromagnetic signature that broadcasts harmony and order to the quantum field. The field responds by reflecting that coherence back to you as harmonious and ordered experiences. The beautiful thing is that you can shift from incoherence to coherence in a matter of seconds, not through mental effort, but through what heart math researchers call heart-focused breathing. You simply place your attention on your heart area and breathe a little slower and deeper than usual. As you do this, you imagine breathing in something that feels good to you. Maybe it's appreciation, maybe it's peace, maybe it's love, maybe it's just the simple pleasure of breathing. Within 30 seconds to 2 minutes of this kind of breathing, your heart rhythm naturally shifts into coherence. You can actually feel the shift happening. Your whole system relaxes. Your mind becomes clearer. Your emotions become more stable. And most importantly, you start broadcasting a coherent signal to the quantum field. This isn't a technique you have to remember to do. This is something you can do anytime, anywhere, in any situation. Stuck in traffic? Heart-focused breathing. Dealing with a difficult person? Heart-focused breathing. Worried about money? Heart-focused breathing. Feeling lonely? Heart-focused breathing. You're not trying to fix anything or change anything. You're simply shifting into coherence. And from that coherent state, solutions and opportunities naturally emerge. I want to share something with you that most people never realize. Every emotion you feel is actually a frequency you're broadcasting to the quantum field. Joy broadcasts at a different frequency than sadness. Love broadcasts at a different frequency than fear. Gratitude broadcasts at a different frequency than resentment. And the quantum field, being pure potential, responds to each frequency by reflecting back experiences that match that vibrational signature. This means that your emotional state isn't just a result of what happens to you. Your emotional state is actually creating what happens to you. When you're broadcasting fear, the field responds with experiences that validate fear. When you're broadcasting love, the field responds with experiences that validate love. When you're broadcasting abundance, the field responds with experiences that validate abundance. But here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. You're not responsible for controlling your emotions. That would just be another form of doing, another way of trying to manipulate outcomes. You're responsible for choosing which emotions you give your sustained attention to. Every emotion that arises is valid and has information for you, but you get to choose which emotions you amplify through your attention and which emotions you allow to pass through without resistance. Think about emotions like weather patterns in your inner sky. Clouds come and go, storms arise and pass, sunshine appears and fades. You don't try to control the weather. You simply experience it and respond appropriately. If it's raining, you might get an umbrella. If it's sunny, you might go outside. But you don't take the weather personally. You don't make it mean something about your worth or your future. Your emotions work the same way. Fear might arise when you're facing something unknown. That's natural and appropriate. But you don't have to set up camp in the fear. You can acknowledge it, get the information it has for you, and then choose to focus on something that feels better. Sadness might arise when you're processing a loss. That's natural and appropriate. But you don't have to make sadness your permanent address. You can honor it, allow it, and then choose to focus on something that nourishes you. This is emotional sovereignty. Not the ability to control what you feel, but the ability to choose what you feed with your attention. And what you feed with your attention grows stronger and broadcasts more powerfully to the quantum field. If you feed fear with your attention, you strengthen the fear frequency and attract more experiences that validate fear. If you feed joy with your attention, you strengthen the joy frequency and attract more experiences that validate joy. But here's where most people get stuck. They think they have to wait until they feel good to start focusing on good-feeling things. They think they have to be in a high vibration before they can access high vibrational experiences. But that's backwards. You don't have to feel good to start appreciating things. You start appreciating things, and then you feel good. You don't have to be joyful to start focusing on what brings you joy. You start focusing on what brings you joy, and then you become joyful. This is the difference between authentic quantum shifting and spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing tries to jump over difficult emotions to get to the good feelings. But authentic quantum shifting moves through difficult emotions by finding something genuine to appreciate, even in the midst of challenge. You're not denying what's difficult. You're not pretending everything is fine. You're simply choosing to also acknowledge what's working, what's beautiful, what's possible. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you're dealing with financial stress. You're worried about paying bills. You're frustrated about your income. You're scared about your future security. These are real emotions with real information. The spiritual bypassing approach would be to try to think positive thoughts about money, or affirm that you're abundant when you clearly don't feel abundant. But the quantum shifting approach is different. You acknowledge the financial stress without trying to fix it or change it. You let yourself feel the worry and frustration without making it wrong. And then, while still honoring those feelings, you find something small and genuine to appreciate about your financial situation. Maybe you appreciate that you have a roof over your head tonight. Maybe you appreciate that you have food in your refrigerator. Maybe you appreciate that you have skills and abilities that have value. The appreciation doesn't deny the stress. It doesn't solve the financial problems. But it does shift your frequency. It creates a moment of coherence in the midst of chaos. And in that moment of coherence, you're broadcasting a different signal to the quantum field. You're not broadcasting pure financial stress. You're broadcasting a complex signal that includes both challenge and appreciation. And that more complex signal opens up possibilities that pure stress would keep closed. This is how quantum shifting works in real life. Not through dramatic transformations or sudden manifestations, but through subtle shifts in frequency that compound over time. Each moment of genuine appreciation creates a small quantum shift. Each moment of authentic joy creates a small quantum shift. Each moment of real gratitude creates a small quantum shift. And these small shifts accumulate into major changes in your experienced reality. But here's what the gurus don't want you to know. You don't need to maintain these high frequencies all the time, you done. But here's what the gurus don't want you to know. You don't need to maintain these high frequencies all the time. You don't need to be in a state of constant joy or perpetual gratitude. That's another myth designed to keep you feeling inadequate and dependent on their guidance. The quantum field doesn't require perfection. It responds to authenticity. Even spending just a few minutes a day in genuine appreciation creates enough coherence to start shifting your reality. Even finding one thing to feel genuinely good about each day is enough to begin broadcasting a different frequency. The quantum field is incredibly sensitive. Small shifts in frequency create large shifts in possibility. You don't need to overhaul your entire emotional landscape overnight. You just need to tip the balance slightly in favor of frequencies that feel good to you. Think about it like compound interest. If you invest just a small amount of money consistently over time, it grows into something significant through the power of compounding. Quantum shifting works the same way. If you invest just a small amount of attention and good-feeling frequencies consistently over time, it compounds into major shifts in your reality, not because you're forcing anything to happen, but because you're consistently broadcasting a signal that the quantum field can respond to clearly. And here's something that will probably shock you. The quantum field doesn't distinguish between big and small. It doesn't care if you're appreciating $1 million or appreciating a warm cup of coffee. It doesn't care if you're feeling grateful for perfect health or grateful for a single deep breath. The frequency of appreciation is the same regardless of the object of appreciation. The frequency of joy is the same whether you're joyful about a major life event or joyful about a beautiful sunset. This means you have access to every frequency you could ever want to experience right now, regardless of your circumstances. You don't need perfect conditions to feel perfect joy. You don't need abundant money to feel abundant appreciation. You don't need ideal relationships to feel ideal love. You just need to find something, anything that naturally evokes those frequencies in you, and allow yourself to be present with those feelings. This is the ultimate freedom. This is what it means to be a conscious creator. Not someone who controls outcomes, but someone who chooses frequencies. Not someone who manipulates circumstances, but someone who selects their vibrational state regardless of circumstances. Not someone who forces reality to conform to their desires, but someone who aligns their frequency with their desires and allows reality to respond naturally. And when you really get this, when you really understand that you have complete sovereignty over your frequency in every moment, something profound happens. You stop being a victim of your circumstances. You stop waiting for external conditions to change before you allow yourself to feel good. You stop giving your power away to situations and people and events outside of yourself. You realize that you are the quantum field expressing itself as individual consciousness. You realize that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You realize that reality isn't something that happens to you, but something that happens through you, as you, by virtue of the frequency you choose to embody moment by moment. This is why the spiritual industry wants to keep you in analysis paralysis. Because the moment you realize how simple this really is, the moment you understand that you already have everything you need to shift your reality, you stop being a consumer of transformation and start being a creator of transformation. You stop looking outside yourself for the next technique or the next teaching or the next guru, and you start recognizing that you are your own greatest teacher, your own most powerful healer, your own most effective guide. The truth is, you've been quantum shifting your entire life. Every time your mood changed, you shifted frequencies. Every time you got excited about something, you shifted realities. Every time you fell in love, you shifted dimensions. Every time you felt deep appreciation, you collapsed quantum possibilities into new experiences. You just didn't know that's what you were doing, but now you know. Now you understand that what you thought was just changing your mood was actually changing your broadcast to the quantum field. What you thought was just feeling better was actually tuning into a different frequency of reality. What you thought was just being happy was actually becoming a different version of yourself. So here's what I want you to do. Not as a technique, not as a practice, not as something you have to remember to do, but simply as an experiment in quantum shifting. Right now, as you're listening to this, find something you can genuinely appreciate. It doesn't matter how small it is. It doesn't matter if it seems insignificant compared to your problems or challenges. Just find something real that you can feel genuine appreciation for. Maybe it's the fact that you took the time to listen to something that could help you grow. Maybe it's the device you're listening on and the technology that makes this possible. Maybe it's your ability to understand language and process new ideas. Maybe it's simply the fact that you're breathing and alive and capable of feeling appreciation at all. Whatever it is, let yourself really feel it. Not as a means to an end, not as a way to get something, but simply because appreciation feels good. Let yourself enjoy the feeling for its own sake. Notice how your body responds. Notice how your energy shifts. Notice how your perspective changes, even slightly. What you're experiencing right now is quantum shifting in its most natural form. You're not trying to manifest anything. You're not using any complicated techniques. You're simply choosing to tune into a frequency that feels good, and in that tuning, you're broadcasting a different signal to the quantum field. You're becoming a different version of yourself. You're collapsing different possibilities into your reality. And if this feels good, if this feels natural, if this feels like something you could do more often, then you've just discovered the most powerful reality-shifting tool that exists. Not because I taught it to you, but because you remembered what you already knew. Not because you learned something new, but because you recognized something that was always true. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to heal every wound or clear every block or raise your vibration to some arbitrary level before you're worthy of the reality you desire. You are already worthy. You are already whole. You are already connected to the infinite field of possibilities. You just need to remember how to tune in. The reality you want isn't somewhere out there waiting for you to become good enough to receive it. It's right here, right now, broadcasting on a frequency that you can access anytime you choose. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of it. You just have to choose it by choosing the frequency that matches it. This is quantum shifting. This is conscious creation. This is the natural birthright of every conscious being. Not a special ability that only some people have, but a fundamental function of consciousness itself. You've been doing it your whole life. Now you just get to do it on purpose. So stop looking for the complicated solution. Stop waiting for the perfect technique. Stop believing that transformation has to be hard. The simplicity you've been seeking is right here. The power you've been searching for is right now. The reality you've been dreaming of is right within your reach. All you have to do is choose it, one frequency at a time, one moment of appreciation at a time, one genuine good feeling at a time. The quantum field is waiting to respond. Your new reality is waiting to emerge. And you, the conscious creator that you've always been, are ready to let it happen. If this resonates with you, if something inside you recognizes the truth in what we've explored together, hit that subscribe button. Not because you need more information, but because you're ready to be part of a community that remembers how simple and natural transformation really is. And drop one word in the comments that captures what you're feeling right now. Let's create a field of coherence together, a collective broadcast of appreciation and possibility that ripples out into the quantum field and touches everyone who encounters it. Remember, you're not just shifting your own reality. Every time you choose a higher frequency, you're making it easier for everyone else to access that frequency too. You're not just transforming your own life. You're contributing to the transformation of consciousness itself. And in a world that desperately needs more joy, more love, more appreciation, more coherence, your willingness to choose these frequencies matters more than you know. The quantum field is listening. Your new reality is forming. And you, beautiful conscious creator, are exactly where you need to be to let the magic unfold.